World War II saw the death of possibly 80 million people across 4 continents. During this time, there were many thousands of events and moments that are worth examining closely. But let's count down the top 4 most significant events of World War II in 1942. As most of you know, America has a long history of segregation. Leading up to 1942, tensions between Japanese Americans and the rest of the country had been on the rise due to the war. Businesses started hanging signs telling, quote, Japs to find jobs elsewhere. The climax of these tensions came with Order 9066. This Attorney General issued order demanded the removal of Japanese residents from parts of the West that were identified as military areas. The result was approximately 120,000 Japanese and Japanese Americans being forced to live in internment camps. Order 9066 was a direct response to the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor and is often cited as a prime example of wartime hysteria driving public policy. The U.S. justified their actions by claiming that there was a danger of those of Japanese descent spying for the Japanese. However, more than 2/3 of those interned were American citizens, and half of them were children. During the entire war, only 10 people were convicted of spying for Japan. All 10 of these people were Caucasian. On January 20th, 1942, Nazi leaders held a conference in Wannsee, Germany, a suburb of Berlin. The Wannsee Conference clarified the process and implementation of the, quote, final solution to the Jewish question. In other words, the genocide of Europe's Jewish population. Jews in Nazi-occupied regions would be immediately deported to concentration and death camps in Poland. At the conference, SS leader Adolf Eichmann prepared a preliminary list of the Jewish populations in Europe. He calculated the murder of 11 million Jews. By the end of World War II, 3 years later, 6 million Jews had been killed. The killing centers were designed for efficient mass murder. Chełmno, the first killing center, opened in December 1942. Jews in Roma were gassed there in mobile vans. In 1942, the Nazis opened Belzec, Sobibor, and Treblinka, killing centers to systematically murder the Jews of the interior of occupied Poland. The Nazis constructed gas chambers to increase killing efficiency and to make the process more impersonal. The Auschwitz-Birkenau killing center had 4 gas chambers. During the height of deportations to the camp, up to 6,000 Jews were gassed there each day. After Pearl Harbor, the Japanese made many strategic advances in the Pacific over the course of several months in early 1942. Soon, they looked to take out U.S. naval bases in the Coral Sea off the coast of Australia. Unfortunately for the Japanese, the U.S. was using advanced spying technology for the time and intercepted the Japanese plan. This was the beginning of the first air-sea battle in history, in which opposing fleets never saw or shot at one another. Each side took similar losses, but the U.S. sent the Japanese retreating after their decimated fighter planes were unable to protect the remaining fleet, meaning Australia remained in Allied control. Exactly 1 month later, the Japanese set their sights on Hawaii, but in order to get their fleet all the way to Hawaii, they would need to seize control of the U.S. island base of Midway, located 1,000 miles west of Hawaii. Again, American codebreakers were able to get a hold of these plans before the actual attack, which was crucial in the preparation for the battle. The American victory was reflected in part by the numbers. 4 Japanese carriers and 332 planes were destroyed. The U.S. lost no carriers and only 147 planes. Japan had failed to seize the island, crucial to its larger objective of Hawaii. These battles are often revered as the turning point in the war in the Pacific. The Battle of Stalingrad was the successful Soviet defense of the city of Stalingrad in the USSR in 1942. Most historians consider it to be the greatest battle of the entire conflict. It stopped the German advance into the Soviet Union and marked the turning of the tide of the war in Europe. The Battle of Stalingrad was one of the bloodiest battles in history, with combined military and civilian casualties of nearly 2 million. The invading Germans saw the conquest of Stalingrad as essential to their campaign in southern Russia. Both Stalin and Hitler understood the symbolic importance of the city because it bare the Soviet dictator's name. In mid-November, the Soviets launched their counteroffensive to encircle the Germans. At this point, the Germans probably could have fought their way out, but Hitler would not allow them to. They were ordered to hold their ground at all costs. The Soviet victory at Stalingrad was a great humiliation for Hitler, who had elevated the battle's importance in Germany. He now became more distrustful than ever of his generals. Stalin, on the other hand, gained confidence in his military, which followed up Stalingrad with a westward drive and remained largely on the offensive for the rest of the war.